What's up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. It is time for another episode of the Agents of Fandom podcast. I'm your host, TJ Zwarich. We will have a very special guest, JJ, joining us to talk about Creature Commandos. Class just ran a little late, and so he'll be joining us as soon as we get to the Creature Commandos breakdown portion. But before we do, we got Damon Gray, co-host as per usual, in his wonderful little Hawkeye beanie. How you doing, Damon?
I'm doing great. Speaking of Hawkeye, man. Ooh, I'm getting excited for Marvel Rivals. I cannot wait to play that. Hawkeye is going to be in it, and they gave him a few cool designs that I am very excited for.
We are just a few hours away from launch at the time that we are recording this, so I too am very excited to dive into some Marvel Rivals. When that one comes out, hey, if you want us to stream it, you want us to get on and show how terrible we are and chat online together while on a stream, let us know, because that's definitely something we could organize. And so drop that in the comments, drop that in the YouTube chat, on socials, at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. We're just a few hours away, so let's squad up and let's play some Marvel Rivals, my friends. Shout out to Ryan in chat. He's going to be joining our squad as we get together and put some Marvel Rivals stuff out there. But that's going to be a lot of fun when it comes out. I'm sure that'll be a very prominent part of next week's Whatcha Watchin as well. Not much watching, but I was playing Marvel Rivals 12 hours when I should have been sleeping. But we'll see when that comes together. I'm excited to play all of these different characters that they have coming. How you been doing since the last 2 days ago when I saw you?
I know so much has happened over the last 2 days. It was new comic book day, so we had some good comics that came out yesterday. Absolute Superman #2 was so good. Man, guys, these Absolute books, you got to get on them. These and the Ultimate books as well, because the Ultimate's #7 just started a new arc. It's kind of like the fallout of the crazy consequences and events that happened in issue 6. So just go check out any Ultimate Absolute book, because it's exactly what like the comic folks us have really been asking for. And also a special shout out, because Mikey Way has a new book out right now, and it's great. It's called Christmas 365. It's about a dad who's kind of like working a little too hard, not really seeing the family all too much, and really wants to make this Christmas extra special. And what he's doing is once a month on the 25th of every single month, they're acting essentially like it's Christmas. So they have like a nice big festivity kind of going on, but he's kind of a disaster. So the day one Christmas, the tree may have caught on fire. Uh-oh.
That's funny. That's good stuff. Check out the Comic Corner. There's going to be a new episode dropping right away. We have a great interview up with Damon AF and Jenna Anderson from the Phase Hero podcast. So make sure you check that out as well on the Agents of Fandom YouTube page. And make sure you're smashing that like button so we can build this community, grow, battle the YouTube algorithm. That's the best way to do it, is when you come in, say hello, drop your view, drop a like as well. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, because you don't want to miss out on all the great content we have coming up. We'll be live every Tuesday, every Thursday, Tuesday for Skeleton Crew, Thursday for Creature Commandos, and then we will have live shows as well for the daily releases of What If Season 3 coming in December. We won't go live every day because, it goes over Christmas. It goes over Christmas Eve. But every couple days, we'll be going live to break down every 2 to 3 episodes of What If as well. And I'm not going to tell you who yet, but we have some really fun guests and interviews lined up for What If. We got some interviews for some maybe creators and behind the scenes people for What If lined up. And then I also am working on, and it's going smoothly, it's looking like it could turn up, hopefully get somebody involved with the show, maybe in a voice cast perspective, on a live show as a guest with us, breaking down one of the episodes as well. So fingers crossed for that. got some approval and some X's to cross and T's to dot and I's to put hearts over top of. I don't know. You guys know what I'm talking
Tease
about.
the dot.
We got some really,
What are we
really fun
dotting
stuff
Tease
for
over
What
here?
If. So make sure you smash the like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. It's time for another edition of Whatcha, Watchin. Damon, I know we skipped this segment actually 2 days ago, so that gives us a good chance to really dive into it for this one. What you been watching, reading, playing in your own time?
Yeah, so I already mentioned a lot of the books that came out this week, so absolutely go check those out. But I've been wanting to talk about this show for a while. We just haven't had the opportunity. Y'all go watch Arcane. If you haven't seen the first season of Arcane, go check it out. It is like some of the best animated TV to come out over the last few years. And season 2 finally wrapped up about a week or two ago. And is it as good as season 1 on a full 9 episode look at it? No, because the first 6 episodes really have to fly through to get to the point they want for their last 3 episodes. However, these last 3 episodes of that show are straight 10 out of 10 television. Peak television. Incredible storytelling, incredible animation. They really went all out with the animation this entire season. That was like one of the highlights for episodes 1 through 6 is that the animation quality. They have like these little montages in it that are just so incredibly creative and well done. Absolutely go check it out, guys. It's some of my favorite TV of the year. And I'm pretty critical when I give out like 10 out of 10s. I don't do it too often, but those last 3 episodes absolutely delivered. And I need so much more of this like entire like universe story, everything with that. So go check it out, please. It's on Netflix. Go watch it. You don't need to be a League of Legends like fan or player at all either. Like it's something you could just dive in, even if you have know nothing about it.
Definitely something I plan to dive into. I haven't had a chance to go into season 2 yet. I watched all of season 1, but I know I'm going to need a rewatch before I dive into season 2 because like you talk about how impeccable the animation is. Well, one of the things that leads to impeccable animation is a lot of time. And so it's been a while since season 1. And so I definitely need to give it a rewatch before diving into season 2. As you know, every week I have my fantasy football league podcast, the Pick Six podcast over at Roto Grinders, where we have a DFS contest and the winner assigns a movie to watch every week. And this week was technically a comic book movie. It was American Splendor with Paul Giamatti. And I don't know if you've seen it or heard of Harvey Picar before, but he's a guy who essentially made a comic book about just his own life and everyday life, and the characters were the people in his life. And it's just very relatable, real life stuff. And it's very interesting how he became pretty famous and he was on Letterman all the time. And he still just had to work a day job to be able to pay for being able to make his comic books. And so it wasn't until this movie and the documentary on him that it's like half movie, half documentary, that he got to retire from like his day job. And so it's a very interesting story of kind of very relatable to some of the things we're doing with you increase name recognition and you get all these cool opportunities to be going to screeners and interviewing people that you never dreamed that you would have in some of your favorite shows. But it's like, okay, but how do we actually turn this into a living? How do we actually do something? How do we go to the next level? And that's kind of what he spent his whole life trying to figure out, while still just going, well, I guess I do this because I love it. And it was a very interesting storyline. I didn't find the guy himself very nice, redeemable, interesting. But Paul Giamatti's performance of him was very interesting. I did also just finish Dragon Age Veilguard, finish the game. The ending to that game is one of the most fun I've ever played for a role-playing game. You spend the entire game building these connections and based on the amount of side quests you do with your own characters, with the other factions of the world, they come back to help you for the final fight. And you can actually assign them like where you want that each group in the battle to go. And based on that, how much confidence you have in them, how much you build up their skills throughout the game, that affects the final battle. And it's really cool because if you don't put people in the right places, you're not going to win the battle with the same levels of lack of casualties and things like that. And so it's actually a whole lot of fun the way that game concluded. So check out Dragon Age Veilguard if you have not. I'm going to be switching to Marvel Rivals as the likely game I'm playing after this, but there also is the new Star Wars Outlaws story that has been added, and we get the Lando pack right now. So I'm still more excited for the Hondo one, especially because now I know that the angry, transphobic, homophobic, racist tirade that Jim Cummings' Twitter account went on was not Jim Cummings, because he hasn't had access to it for years. And so we still love Pooh.
Yay.
We still love Hondo. And we don't have to worry about that. But I'm excited to dive into that Star Wars Rebels game. And then, yeah, that's really it for in terms of things I've been watching. I'm caught up on Shrinking now. I'm all caught up on every episode of Shrinking, and that has been an incredible season of television. Apple TV Plus, go watch Shrinking if you have not done so yet. Our special guest has arrived. JJ, how are you doing, my friend? Welcome.
Good. How are you guys?
We are in the midst of a segment of Whatcha, Watchin. And so in a time where we're all busy covering content like Creature Commandos, you know, for jobs, although Creature Commandos, it's pretty enjoyable. It's nice that we get to cover this. But what have you been watching? What have you been playing? And what have you been reading maybe on your own time?
Well, I'm also going to be hopping into Marvel Rivals. I'm so excited for that. I played the, the beta or the alpha back in July. It was so much fun. Adam Warlock, Scarlet Witch, and Thor. Thor is one of my favorites too. Those three. Excited to check out Iron Fist and Wolverine. Honestly, I haven't been watching too much right now just because I've been busy with schoolwork, but Abbott Elementary I've been catching up on. And then another game I'm playing right now is just kind of Fortnite. You know, it's just easy to jump into, and they always make it more fun. I don't know if you guys saw it, but more Spider-Verse skins are coming. So, yeah. Also, Creature Commandos, obviously, watching that. Have to. So,
I'm so thankful and grateful that I got the screeners for Creature Commandos, because it is just not available in Canada to watch. It doesn't exist here right now. It's not streaming anywhere. It's not streaming anywhere in the UK. I'm not sure outside. I know it's obviously in the United States on Max, and apparently it's licensed to some other countries and streaming platforms throughout the world, but not Canada, not UK. I'm not sure who else has them and who else doesn't, but pretty disappointing. But at least our American viewers are going to be able to join us in to talk about it. Are you ready to join our squad for Marvel Rivals? Should we try and get just like 10 of us all together streaming this game all at once?
That'd be pretty fun.
What's your skill level? Because we're not very good, if I'm being totally honest.
My motto with video games is, are you having fun? That's about it. Are you having fun? That's about it. I don't really.
We were at Ren. It was me, Damon, and Agents of Fandom co-founder, graphic designer Ruben Rapaldo. We had this little team going, and there was one we played. Like, they must have been like not 12-year-olds, because 12-year-olds are good at video games.
Maybe 8-year-olds at most.
And we just dominated them. We were so good.
Amazing.
We were like, oh, we got a team together now. We can communicate. Like, are we actually nice? As soon as we started ranking up and facing tougher competition, we were just getting absolutely lit up for hours on end.
Yeah, I'm definitely expecting a difference in the way the game plays, since it's going to be like free and open to everyone. Whereas a few months ago, it was like, do you have a code? You know what I mean? You got it. So now everybody's going to be in that, and I'm expecting launch day to be pretty hectic. If that game does not go down at least once,
servers are going down for sure.
Oh yeah, no, seriously though. If they don't though, I don't know. They have all these characters, and they're just doing God's work over there.
Few hours away from release. It should be a lot of fun, but we're not here to talk about Marvel Rivals. Maybe we will do some more Marvel Rival stuff in the future. Let us know on socials at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else except Blue Sky, I believe, is agentsfandom.com. Make sure you let us know. Do you want us to see some Marvel Rivals content? We could do some streams. We could do some podcasts. Let us know. Make sure you smash that like button on YouTube, and let's dive into it. Spoiler-free thoughts, because we got shout out to Millie, shout out to Ryan, shout out to Aisha, our Canadians and our UK friends in chat who have not seen Creature Commandos yet, just hanging out. So let's delay the spoiler talk a couple more minutes. Spoiler free. JJ, I'll throw it to you first. What did you think about these first 2 episodes?
This show is very fast. Like they don't like. I mean, as you can see, the runtime of these episodes is not very long, so they don't. He doesn't have time to like meander. So we're thrown into this mission like right away. But I think overall, I thought it was pretty funny. There's one joke once they get to Alana's castle that really got me. I think one of my favorite things though is the animation here. Even in these first 2 episodes, there's a fight that is so much fun and it's so cool to watch. I'm sure we'll get into it a little later, but off the bat, I mean, pretty good. Definitely setting up an interesting story with some very peculiar characters, but yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's James Gunn too. I mean, you always get to like a little pinch of salt when it's coming from me a little bit. So,
Damon, how about you? These first 2 episodes, you just got to see them this morning for the first time. I did get to do a not full rewatch, but kind of skimmed rewatch. Make sure I remembered all the important parts this morning. Because I'm thankful they are still on the screener accounts. I was worried because I did not take good enough recap notes. I did like spoiler free notes, and so I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to rewatch these, but I still have access. I'm good. What did you think of the first 2 episodes?
I liked it. The show hasn't blown me away yet. And I think the way you described it in your kind of general season review is that this is a tasty little appetizer before going to like your big entree. I think that is actually a pretty good summary of at least the first 2 episodes so far. And like JJ said, this show does like not waste any time at all. Like you get your team together within the first 4 minutes and 13 seconds of this show. Like you are thrown right into it. It's very typical. Like if you enjoyed James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, you will absolutely really like this show because it is of the same vein. It feels very similar but animated. It's a slightly more zany than The Suicide Squad, just because you're dealing with monsters and characters and a much different cast, but it's of the same vein. So if you like that style of James Gunn, I think you'll really like this.
I couldn't agree more. That's another thing I wrote in my review, that it does have the classic James Gunn feel. We'll talk about it more, but you got his comedy style, you got great music, you got found family elements. That's the one sort of, as much as I enjoyed it, that is the one kind of negative I put in my review. And you can find my full spoiler-free review up on agentsfandom.com. That's what we're looking at here for those who are watching us on YouTube. I put, for the one like kind of negative, many elements are incredibly similar to the Suicide Squad, feeling a little bit repetitive. Now, I enjoy the Suicide Squad Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. Oh, geez, sorry about that. I accidentally added an audio from something else for a second. I don't know if you could have heard that, but it messed me up. It does feel quite similar to Guardians, to Suicide Squad, just as much darker and edgier the Suicide Squad was than Guardians. I think that's what this is over the Suicide Squad. To this one takes it kind of another level, another step up over the Suicide Squad.
It has like that Harley Quinn series vibe that you mentioned, because it's a little over the top in some of the jokes and the raunchiness compared to even the Suicide Squad, and how just like some of like maybe the villains or the bad team are portrayed in that way. So if you're into that, I think you'll like this. For me, like I said, it hasn't like blown me away yet, but I enjoyed the first 2 episodes.
JJ, did the steaminess, the raunchiness of this series take you off guard? Because we get it in full force in the first 2 episodes.
Honestly, I know there's that one scene in episode 2 that's like, oh wow. They did I remember they were teasing that at, I think, San Diego Comic-Con, and I was like, oh god, is it going to be like everywhere? But I don't think it's too bad here. I definitely think sometimes restraining him to a PG-13 rating does prove a little better for the comedy, because sometimes it gets a little, I mean, that's a little too like goof. I don't know, raunchy.
This is the first thing that like they've advertised a few things this way, like from like with the Suicide Squad, but this is the first one that truly feels to me like the dark, twisted mind of James Gunn, like how they marketed that. This feels that way.
Ryan asks, "Is it more or less the boys in the terms of raunchiness?" I wouldn't. Less, definitely less. I think
less aggressive.
Oh, that's cool.
Like it's.
I'd put it in the same vein as Harley Quinn series,
but there's straight up nudity in this where they don't quite do in Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
There's a nipple, Damon. I saw a nipple.
I do think in certain scenes, and maybe it's not, I mean, just some of the stuff we see in the trailer, the gore at some points, I definitely think starts to I mean, maybe not. The boys does some outrageous stuff. Let's not forget that. But there's definitely, I think specifically Phosphorus's powers, like I think are the most violent to me because he's just like living, walking, burning. And I think in the trailer you just see him like put his hands through two people's face, and you see it all. Like you see every part of their head just like ooze out.
I find it so funny that DC has just like multiple different flaming green skull villains.
Yeah.
Like I can't see this dude without seeing Blight from Batman Beyond, which like Batman Beyond is one of my favorite TV shows growing up. And like this dude just like Phosphorus looks exactly like Blight.
Oh, look up Atomic Skull.
I was gonna say Atomic Skull.
I know, and then
my go-to when I think of him.
How are there three? How are there three of these guys that look the same? Because it wasn't Atomic. Yeah, he was in My Adventures with Superman. Mm-hmm. Another one when I saw him for the first time, I was like, "Oh, are they bringing in Blight?" No, this is just a totally different guy. Also with a shiny flaming skull. But let's get into the first two episodes. Spoiler warning for the first two episodes of Creature Commandos. If you have not seen it yet, thank you to those who are hanging out with us so far. We're going to dive in to the first two. And the first thing I want to address is how this, Damon, we were talking a little bit about it off camera. It immediately canonizes the Suicide Squad. It immediately canonizes Peacemaker. With Rick Flag Sr. being introduced and Amanda Waller hanging out with him and kind of giving him the lowdown. She's explaining things to him and he's kind of acting as the viewer. So we know what's included, what's not included. And so she says right off the bat, "I'm sorry about the death of your son. We know that Rick Flag, the one that we see in the Suicide Squad, died, and that is canon to the story." She talks about Peacemaker. They talk about Task Force X, and he's like, "Hey, I thought this isn't allowed anymore. You're not allowed to put the bombs in these people's heads and send them out there." After what happened with Starro, well, yes, they said humans. Humans, very specifically. And there's a group of people we have here. They are not humans. JJ, you are the DC Comics guru of this group. Now, Damon hosts the Comic Corner, but he admits that AF is the big DC guy on that. And while Damon loves his DC books, he doesn't have
the hybrid. I bounce between the two.
Marvel.
Yeah, I bounce between the two.
Break us down this group of characters we have. If you don't know, I don't get me wrong. I can anything. I got lists here and background stuff I can do if you don't want to take it. But I figured as the expert here, I'd give you a chance to cook.
So there are some that are just this team is very much a hodgepodge of some iterations. I don't know a time where all of these characters have been on this team. Especially, I don't think Weasel's ever been. Weasel's not a character that really gets used anymore. Besides with James Gunn, Weasel, and plus James Gunn's Weasel is not comic book. Comic book Weasel is a dude in a suit who I think like gets jealous of somebody, wears the suit. He's like a college professor, and he just wears it, and I think he kills a few people, and then I think gets thrown in prison. And I think he was on one or two Suicide Squads, and I think he died. I don't think they ever really used him again. But of course, Weasel back from the Suicide Squad. Everybody, a lot of people that didn't stay for the credits. He did live. He washed up on the beach, coughed up some water, and ran off into the rainforest of Corto Maltese. And then Nina was another one who I don't know if she appeared till even after Flashpoint. I think she might be that new. I don't remember her before Flashpoint, and she wasn't even originally. super involved with the command, or she was, but she was an agent of Shade, which was like a supernatural organization. Frank and Bride were also members of Shade. Bride's another character that they changed a little bit. She doesn't have her arms. She usually has like 4 or 6 arms, but she only has 2. So I was putting my arms up like I had 4 more arms. But she, I guess we can talk about in episode 2. They kind of established that Bride and Frank have a different dynamic in this show than I believe they do in the comics. It's definitely a much more interesting vibe or dynamic. One I didn't expect. Frankenstein is a character whose role in this show, I was initially just believed he was part of the team, but episode 1 lets us know that's not the case. Who else we have? Dr. Phosphorus, Batman villain. We haven't seen his DCU origin yet. In the comics, we do see Rupert Thorne in the trailer, so I'm assuming they are connected. If Rupert Thorne is there, he's definitely playing into Foz's origins. Batman villain, worked in a nuclear plant. They were trying to build one, and he worked with it under Rupert Thorne. But he gets into an accident, then he fights Batman, and then Batman thinks he's dead, and then he pops up later. And I think, again, another character that doesn't really get used. He just pops up in the background when they need to fill cells in prisons. Cool character, though. The show is definitely going to do a lot for him. Who else is there? I think I got everybody right. Oh, Rick Flag Sr., created for the show. I think Gunn was like, oh man, I really want to use Rick Flag, and he's like, oh, but I just killed him. And we learned that a lot of people were confused how that would work, since Frank Grillo and Joel Kinnaman are not too far in age, but the show pretty quickly establishes that they had him pretty young. And I was happy that they are focusing on that, like the fallout of that, and how Rick Sr. feels after losing his son. I'm surprised he was even down for this, considering his son just died, and his son died on Amanda Waller's watch. It's like, oh, you did get my son killed, but you know what? I'll take the bag. It's probably paying a lot. Work with those guys? Are you kidding me?
There's got to be no chance that she has been fully open with him, because she not just died on his watch, but died on on her orders.
Mm-hmm.
On her Peacemaker took him out because she asked, and so yeah, there's definitely, I think, Amanda Waller has her secrets, right? We always known that Amanda Waller has her secrets. Damon, of all the characters that got introduced, nobody is some big name character. Weasel we've of course seen before in the Suicide Squad, but who stood out to you as one of your early favorites?
I'm always stuck for Nina. Whenever you just kind of have that character who almost seems like they're too good of a heart to be in a team like this, but are just there because they're seen as a monster. I always have an immediate sort of remorse and some sadness for. So it's you attach yourself to that. G.I. Robot immediately is going to be a favorite for many, just because it's a robot who kills Nazis. 10 out of 10 idea. And that's all he wants to do is kill Nazis. So who isn't down for that? And the Bride I thought was interesting, especially after the second episode, because I definitely have a feeling every single episode you're going to get the backstory of all these characters. And, you're going to be able to attach yourself to them just a little bit more. So when I learned more about this iteration of the Bride, I was like, oh, that's an interesting take, and how they went about with this. And I'm definitely, those two so far have stood out to me. Phosphorus, though, is just a cool design, some nuclear dude on fire who could just melt people's faces and is just always on fire all the time. Ghost Rider style. That's just cool.
Bride's definitely grown to be my favorite as well, through from the second episode all throughout the entire series. I think she's just really cool. She's really badass. I didn't really expect that. I didn't know anything about the character, and because basically I think that's fine, because he's created a brand new version of the character. But I didn't necessarily see this bride and Frankenstein dynamic that extends throughout the whole, keeping it spoiler free, extends throughout the whole series coming quite a bit. And I do think that she's a very, very intriguing character. And then G.I. Robot's just so much fun. He's absolutely hilarious. Shout out to Sean Gunn because he's absolutely hilarious. JJ, who stands out as your favorite?
Dr. Phosphorus is my favorite. I love him. His whole thing is like, the vibe I got from him is like, I have nothing better to do. So at least I'm stretching my legs. Him, the bride, of course, she's pretty great. And then probably Weasel. I love Weasel. I love him in the Suicide Squad, and I love him here. He's just a little freak, you know what I mean? And he's like, oh, I also really like I like the dynamic between him and Phosphorus. Phosphorus somehow knows what he's saying, doesn't know what he's saying. I think the scene on the Osprey was one of my favorites between them, where they have the first thing I noticed was they have him like seat belted to hell. Sorry. Like just seat belted like right to the chair so he can't move. And then Phosphorus just complaining the entire time. Reminded me at the beginning of the Suicide Squad where I think Blackguard was just complaining the entire time. He's like, is this thing a dog? I don't know what it is. Get it away from me. And then I think Weasel pees right next to Phosphorus, and he's like, oh, come on. Is he peeing? That was pretty great.
DJ muted.
I was hoping I could get away without doing that. One of the things that I think will piss off the right people is Sons of Themyscira. And I think their addition to episode 1 was pretty damn funny to me. Like, just going, it's been like The Boys does it all the time, but I still enjoy when media goes, the woke feminist agenda. Themyscira, what do you mean it's just for women? Why? I hear they have beautiful waterfalls. It's sexist that only women get waterfalls. Like, the whole thing was just absolutely hilarious, making the Sons of Themyscira kind of the incel bro group. And I can't confirm, but I would have to imagine that. Now, I'm not talking about the people that just like Zack Snyder projects and liked his version of the universe. That's all good. That's all fine and dandy. I'm talking about the very specific group of people on social media that we all know who they are, that are just the worst, that attack people for liking anything outside of that of the universe. I think those people were already going to be mad about James Gunn having his own universe since they didn't like him. And now this is going to probably be a Venn diagram of who that offends within that group, I think. But Damon, what did you think of the Sons of Themyscira as kind of the first group of antagonists led by Cersei, who is voiced by Anya Charlotta, who is one of the main characters of The Witcher?
Yeah. There's some things that I'm just getting Harley Quinn vibes on. And that was definitely one of it. Like the way that they're acting, extraordinarily over the top, right? But it's fun. They weren't on screen too much to the point where I was just like, all right, move on with the bit type of thing. But it was funny.
They're real. They're in the comics. But he kind of ravagers them, where he like completely changed them. Where like in the comics, I'm pretty sure they're actually like Sons of Themyscira, but here they're just angry rednecks. Because like literally they don't even like, even in their design, they're just angry red. They're wearing like, like the trucker hats and like the torn off vest shirts, and in the comics they're just the actual forgotten sons of Themyscira, like the men that they were like sent away. But I think just as Gunn saying, like we're not getting into that, we're not doing that, we're going to use them as a joke here, and it works, and it's pretty fun. Like it took me by surprise. I was like, oh, okay, wow. And I like that they just like flock to Cersei's side. Oh, also question, how do you guys pronounce it? Because the show
Cersei.
The show pronounces it weird, and I guess the show is correct because that's the material they're using. But I always say Cersei, but don't they say Cersei?
Yeah, I was like, oh,
a little accent on it,
yeah,
a little flair. But I just thought it was interesting the fact that this is technically the very first DCU project. It did canonize Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad previously in the episode. But this is technically the first entry into the DCU proper, and the fact that we're already immediately bringing up like the Mascara, I was like, whoa. All right. I was like, okay, here we go. And I guess they're kind of looking at it like, yeah, it's this place that may exist or may not exist, but they call themselves that.
I thought it was like nuts that we're just getting into this, and immediately like on a news channel, there's pictures of Amazons from Themyscira, and it's like, I mean, the DCU didn't even get far enough to only a certain group of people knew that existed, but now it's just like public. Like that's the world that he's like, we're just diving right into. Like this world is established. These people are here. Themyscira is a public thing. So that would, I mean, if Themyscira is publicly known, I mean, that would usually imply that there is an active like Wonder Woman 2, which I thought was kind of crazy. It's just not what I expected from like the start of a
immediate the second that I kind of avoided a lot of trailers with this, so I legitimately didn't even know that like Cersei was going to be in this show. And I like immediately with the introduction, I was like, oh, okay, we're going straight into this. But the way that they handled the Mascara stuff, because it was like, yeah, they showed images, but then they're like, this place may exist, and I'm like, what do you mean may? They're right there on the screen in front of you.
You're looking at them. You're looking at,
I was like, silly newscasters.
It does raise a lot of questions for the future of, James Gunn has come out and said, like, we're not going to announce anything until we have a finished script for it. But he obviously said that after they did their whole big Gods and Monsters announcements for a whole bunch of projects that they don't have scripts for, with Booster Gold and this Amazon series. And there's an Amazon series that doesn't mention Wonder Woman at all. And so this implying that the world already knows about Themyscira, we still don't know if there's a Wonder Woman, if there has been at any point. And so it's kind of weird, the timelines being pieced together that we're getting without actually knowing when any of this stuff is going to come. So it's like, I enjoy the whole idea of we're not going to announce anything until we got a script. But unfortunately, we've already got some announcements without the script. And so it's hard not to speculate how this stuff could be potentially piecing together. What were you going to say, JJ?
No, like you said, that Waller is one thing that I've been waiting for since like 2021, like shortly after Peacemaker, like was halfway through the season, they announced it. It's one of the only projects I think to survive, the jump over to the DCU. I kind of wish that would have came out before this, because I feel like Waller is going to add a lot of context for what's gone on in between, because they established it has been in the first 2 episodes of Creature Commandos, it has been 2 years since Project Starfish. So Peacemaker takes place maybe, I don't know if they ever really narrow it down, but it's very shortly after the Suicide Squad, because we see him in the hospital, obviously at the end of Suicide Squad, in the beginning of the beginning of Peacemaker. So I'm assuming Waller is going to fall into that 2-year gap where we don't know what happened. And I just kind of wish it had already happened. I mean, I know Creature Commandos was kind of just something Gunn was doing for fun, and then he became CEO, and he was like, well, let's just do it. Because when you're co-CEO, you can just kind of do what you want. But because Waller, we see her almost right away, and she's like, oh, well, Congress said this. I want to see like those hearings. I want to see that, which I'm assuming Waller is going to be if we ever get it. Because I know today, actually, in an interview, he said he's not happy with the scripts for it yet, along with Booster Gold and Batman. So it seems like Waller's still quite a bit away, which is going to definitely probably set up a little more lead into this show. So.
Yeah, that was a full big interview with so much information dropped with James Gunn and Josh Horowitz. You can shout out to Josh Horowitz for the great interview. You can also check out the Agents of Fandom social page, where Ryan Cortero absolutely slayed with all of those incredible posts that he got out following that interview. So shout out to Ryan, doing an amazing job as per usual. JJ, I'll throw it to you for the last kind of thing I want to talk about from this episode. And that's the Phosphorus versus Rick Flag Sr. fight, because we talked about Flag and Princess Ileana. The steaminess felt a little weird, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Consent is important, and I don't know that we fully got Rick Flag's consent at the beginning, even though he, falls to temptation and continues his acts for the next 2 episodes. So that made me feel better about it. The fact that he wanted to keep coming back to it. But there was some of it just felt a little bit icky. If I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But the Flag versus Phosphorus fight, that was pretty damn cool, JJ. I'll throw it to you for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the way they even utilized like Phosphorus's powers in there, and the way he was like generally would just melt through things, and then they would fly through like a wall or fly through like a table, and they really, you know, they fought in every corner of that castle, and they were in the kitchen, they were in the dining room, they were in the hallways, and I really like I think the studio's Bobby Pills, they do the teasers for Invincible in between seasons. They need to get those guys working on Invincible, because the way this fight is animated, it is so dynamic, it is so smooth, it is so like satisfying to watch, and it's so much fun. It's especially seeing Rick, like, he did not hesitate to just jump into combat with this living, burning skeleton. And you know, he, like, at one point I think Phosphorus grabs his arm and just really starts burning through it. And I'm like, wow, that definitely looks like it hurts, Rick. I think it was a great way to end I think it was the first episode, right? Ends the first episode. Yeah, because then we jump into episode 2 with Rick and Ilana, because she tends to. There was the one, the scene outside the bathroom with oh my god, hi. The scene outside the bathroom with GI, Weasel, and Phosphorus, and the guard comes up, and they're just like, "Oh, give him a few minutes." I thought that was pretty funny, but again, I did think the relationship was a little weird, but that scene was pretty funny, where they were just, because also Phosphorus's face just has no emotion, so you can never tell like what he's feeling. He's like, "Are you smiling right now?" He's like, "Yeah," but he's like, not for the reason you'd probably like. And just him, like, just kind of being the voice for both GI and Weasel, because he's just, I don't know, GI just, like, if it's not about Nazis, he's not interested, and Weasel is too busy biting his own leg. So I don't know. See, that's just why Phosphorus has been my favorite character so far. But yeah.
Damon, any final notes from episode 1 you want to touch on before we transition to 2, whether it be Ileana and Flag, Phosphorus versus Flag, or the end, which introduces us to David Harbour's Frankenstein, which Harbour does such an incredible job with this character.
Yeah, he does. You know, the first episode, like we mentioned before, it flies very fast. You know, you get this team very, very quickly. You go through it. You know this mission. We're into this mission. You're in this setting, and it sets you up very quickly. But I am glad that they dropped the first 2 episodes, because this show really, and James Gunn even says it, the show really doesn't begin until the 2nd episode.
Yeah, and that's when we get something that this show does very well throughout the whole series, is these character backstories. And we get the first one. We get the team assembling in the first episode, but episode 2, we get the first true backstory to one of these characters, and it's the Bride and Frankenstein. And that's another one where there are these blurred lines of consent that they address in these that make me feel icky a little bit as I'm watching, with the Bride being obviously pretty standard story. The Bride of Frankenstein is created to be the Bride of Frankenstein. But the whole love triangle that gets created between the 3 of them is admittedly weird. And that's, to me, where the dark, twisted mind of James Gunn thing comes into it. But I did find it so wildly intriguing. From looking at this of a character study for Bride, you totally understand the motivations of her characters and why she would be leaning one way, and why someone who has barely existed would be drawn to their creator like that, who treats them well. I thought her character was so intriguing, and she has developed into my favorite of the series, I think. Damon, are you with me? Like, this was a creepy ass backstory.
I found it less uncomfortable than the one between Flag and Ilana. Like, I found that, like, this to be like less weird, because I felt like it's still weird, but it felt a little more consensual, at least between like the Bride and the.
It was the power dynamic
and Victor's. Yeah, sure, but it was like, it felt more consensual between like the Bride and Victor, and then like poor Frank off in the corner being like, but this was supposed to be for me. And like, at that point you could clearly tell where that was heading. But once when like, that whole dynamic goes through and then Frank does what he does by the end of it, when my favorite part between this entire 2 episodes so far was seeing them through the years between Frank and the bride just facing each other, like, taking on each other. Frank trying to find his bride. The bride is just like, oh my God, here we go again. And then they fight, between it's like the late 1800s and 1940s and 1960s, the 90s, like that. You get to see it through the generations of things and how long this cat and mouse chase has kind of been going on. That was my favorite part about either of these 2 episodes so far.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun to get the montage of them just going through the years and fighting each other and always being able to find each other, and one always wanting to get away, cat and mouse, exactly how you described it. JJ, what did you think about Bride's backstory?
I agree with you, TJ. I didn't love what eventually happens between Victor and the bride. I didn't like that. I thought that was weird. Because I don't know. I looked at Victor as more of a father figure to her, which I think a lot of other people will too.
Yeah, that's right.
Especially because like the most of their scenes together is him like teaching her how to be, sentient, teaching her how to like walk, how to talk, know what things are. And I just thought it's even more interesting because it is intriguing, because in the beginning, Victor didn't want to do that. Victor was like, Frankenstein, I don't think we should do this. Is this unethical? At what point am I just playing God? I made you. Is that not enough? And Frankenstein, he's just like adamant that he get this person in his life that is just like him. And I think we see at the end of episode 1, he tries to like fill that void. Like he wants her to be his right, because he thinks they're perfect together, and he's on that boat with all those random girls just dancing. And I think it's just setting up his character. He's just trying to like fill that void without the bride, because she, as we can tell throughout time, wants nothing to do with him. She does not care about him. And I would have preferred if I think that they could have got to the same conclusion with what eventually Frankenstein does, with just them bonding and with Victor being closer with the bride, as like he gives her the necklace. I think that even that could have been enough. You know what I mean? Like Frankenstein be like, oh, I'm the one, supposed to do that. I don't know. I didn't like the one scene, and you know what I'm talking about.
No, like, I get it, because it's not like this is supposed to be a good character. Like, it's not like we're looking at Dr. Frankenstein being like, yeah, this is a good guy that we want to root for and cheer for. Like, he's a weirdo, creepy guy, and weirdo, creepy guys do weirdo, creepy things. But yeah, no, I'm with you. It was a little bit weird. Damon, you brought up Nina being one of your favorite characters, and although the character herself doesn't do a whole lot for me, I kind of just find her a little blah. I do really enjoy the one-on-one dynamic between Bride and Nina. I think they're a pretty fun duo together.
When you have someone who's very headstrong compared to someone who's a little just like, I just don't want to get in trouble, we get that already with like the Skeleton Crew, but this is
I was going to say women
much
kneel.
more exactly, but this is just a much more TVMA version of that. That's a great dynamic, a great duo to have for entertainment purposes. And we've been getting that through time. Chucky Finster and Tommy Pickles, you get that too, right? Like, you'd see it forever. So when you put the two of them together, you're gonna have some good moments between the two, especially when the more timid one eventually at the very end of things, and things go completely sour and into a dumpster fire, finally snaps and just says, F you, man.
JJ, the fight sequence in this episode, it kind of seems like there's a little bit of a formula of, backstory, uncomfortable spiciness, bloody fight sequence. When last one it was Flag versus Phosphorus, this one it's Brides versus the Sons of Themyscira and Circe. That was a pretty fun fight. and wacky all the way down to the inflatable arm flailing bride that we got.
I think we need to give Bride her credit because for a little bit there, she was kicking Cersei's ass. You know what I mean? Like she was really putting up a fight, and it's I was like, oh wow, I didn't know she could do that because Cersei is a ancient, powerful sorceress from literally the island of paradise. You know what I mean? And it's just to see the Bride holding her own against that. I think it really set her up as a genuine like powerhouse in the because I think Gunn said in an interview yesterday that we're very quickly going to learn like who is on top in this universe, who has the power, who are the metahumans, the prominent metahumans, who are the I don't think she would be considered a metahuman. I guess she would just be considered a monster, obviously, because he does talk about the monsters in the universe that are on top. But she a genuine like powerhouse here, and if she can do that, I mean, imagine what Frankenstein is capable of, because he is like 5 of her, maybe even 6. You know what I mean? And at one point I kind of started feeling bad for Cersei because she was really punching the hell out of her. Yeah. And I did feel bad for Nina though, because like TJ said, she can't do it too whole much. I don't really get why. I mean, I get why she was on the team because you need somebody water. But I mean, other than that, I mean, she has no combat. She's just kind of a I don't even think that because in the comics she is a like distinguished scientist. Like that's like one of her primary roles at Shade. She's a scientist. And here I kind of do wish they would give her a little bit more to do on that angle, but I guess really in their setting there isn't too much of that there for her to do. She's just kind of like a conscience for them, because I feel like a lot of the people on this team just don't really have that, or if they do, it's just it's not a good one, it's not a great one.
Very deep down.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the bride is definitely the one that's buried deep down. I think Phosphorus has one, he just doesn't care. GI Robot has a computing system, and the Weasel probably has one of those symbol monkeys up there. But no, I definitely think Nina is the one there that's like, guys, we gotta rein. She's here she's definitely there to rein people in, but she's not there to throw hands, as episode 2 sets up.
Episode 2 moves real fast, start to finish. We get Frankenstein murdering his creator. We get the montage through time. Bride and Nina get the crap beat out of them, and the episode basically just ends. This isn't one that's going to be happy-go-lucky through the entire time. They're getting the shit beat out of them and just having to sit in it and just eat it as this episode comes to a conclusion. Damon, any final thoughts from the first 2 episodes of Creature Commandos?
Like I said, the show's fun. It's not blowing me away by any means, because I definitely feel like it's something we've seen before between the likes of James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, or with a little bit of Harley Quinn vibes in there. But I am enjoying it, and I think this is a very interesting start to the DCU. Like, the fact that this is the first property is wild to me. Like you mentioned, JJ, I think like a Waller show would have probably been like more for a general audience. This is not a general audience show, because you're immediately making it an animated show, which puts off a decent amount of people, because some people just don't like animation. And then you're making a TVMA, which is,
only releasing it in half the world.
Only releasing it in pretty much just the United States as of this moment, which is very frustrating for many people. I totally understand that, rightfully so. But you're going from that, and then you're leading directly into a very feel-good, James Gunn has said, a family-oriented Superman movie. So I do think it's wild that we're starting with this, but I love the fact that the DCU is not afraid to make different projects straight out of the gate. So it's not just kind of like one cookie, I hate the word cookie cutter, but it's not just like one of the same vibe going from one movie to another. It's not just PG-13 throughout all. You make the project that you make it the rating, the project, the story that project deserves, right? But starting with this, in the end, to wrap us all up, starting with this is wild to me. I'm glad we're here. This is fun, but it's just like, what a way to start.
Couldn't agree more. JJ, any final thoughts?
Yeah, actually, I want to about just like the start of this universe, it being that I think I agree with I agree with Damon there. This is very similar to his previous work, Suicide Squad, Guardians of the Galaxy, even Peacemaker. But I think that it's like I'll forgive it here just because like this show is like he was already writing it before he had the job. It was just because Max was like, "Hey, do you want to do anything else?" I mean, again, even if he wasn't even in control here anymore, the DCU was still continuing. I'd be like, "Okay, well, I'd like to see you do something else." I do think it's fine here, but he can't stay like that. And I think Superman will definitely be the test for that. Can he branch out from these misfit movies and, handle a tentpole with a, the icon of the DC universe? Can he handle more than just, misfits, rejects, and, R-rated TVMA, characters and shows? I definitely think he's going to need to branch out, or he's going to be stuck getting these complaints. And I agree, it's definitely a crazy thing to start the DC universe on, because like before he originally announced it, I was scratching my head. I was like, so wait, we're gonna start not with Superman, but with Creature Commandos. Even I, like, the fan I am, was like, interesting. Damon brought up very valid points. It's not available in most of the world. TVMA, animated, and a lot of people, you tell them, oh, is it animated? They won't watch it. But I think it's a very creative way to start this world, and it definitely sets a tone for like you setting the tone with Creature Commandos and Superman being like, oh, I don't know what this universe is going to look like. I could go to the theater next week with something else releasing, and it's a rom-com. So we'll have to see what happens. But I think so far this show, the pace, I don't know, it's very fast, and I don't want that to hurt it in the end.
JJ, where can the people find you on socials? And do you have any fun, exciting content you want to share?
You can find me at Wild Patrol with 2 E's at the end of Wild on Twitter. And you can find me over at Pops News. We're going to have coverage of Creature Commandos as well. I've got some features in the works right now. Gonna do some more character breakdowns for people that are just itching to know more about some of these hideous freaks. And I have some other DC Universe Connection articles coming soon, specifically with Alana. I feel like James is definitely hiding something there with her, but it could just be a coincidence. So,
thank you so much for joining us. This has been an absolute blast. We'll definitely make sure to get you on at least once more for Creature Commandos before the end of this season here. And again, make sure everybody, when you're smashing that like button, because it helps us so much battle the algorithm. Just hit it. Take your mouse, take it, slide it down, click the like button. If you're watching on your phone, it's 2 steps. I apologize. It's not 1 step. It's 2. You click hide chat. Then you got to hit that like button. We got lots of fun stuff coming up. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we will be live. Tuesdays for Skeleton Crew, Thursdays for Creature Commandos. We got coverage for What If coming up. And I can't stress this enough. We have some of the most exciting and fun interviews that we've ever had on the show coming up for What If. So make sure you're subscribed and join us for those, because for both live shows and for interviews, we have some really, really exciting stuff coming up here. Damon, we got another episode of the Comic Corner dropping this week. We got another episode of another interview dropping this week as well from the movie Gutters. Ryan Cortero, our own, spoke with the directors of that movie. It's starring Shamik Moore, starring Susan Sarandon. Check it out if you haven't seen it already. Check out the interview dropping later this week. And always check out agentsfandom.com for lots of content coverage of all your favorite TV, movies, video games, etc. That'll do it for this week. We'll be back on Tuesday. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us live. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us after the fact. On behalf of myself, Damon, JJ, all the agents behind the scenes. See you next time. Peace.